Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Meet the Candidates. My name is Ken Roble, and it is a delight to speak today with BethFreshwaterSmith. BethFreshwaterSmith is a current judge from Wilson County. She is currently running for the North Carolina Court of Appeals. She is a certified juvenile law judge and has over 34 years of experience. But it's great that she's here to meet with us, and now we're going to talk with BethFreshwaterSmith. Hi, Beth. Can you start out by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, Ken. Thank you. It's wonderful to be able to be here and let people know a little bit more about myself. With judicial candidates, it's hard. Sometimes we don't know much about them. But I can start off with I'm a lifetime North Carolinian, grew up in Morehead City. Knew from the 7th grade I wanted to be a lawyer. I thought that lawyers were so honorable and they were so involved in their communities, and I wanted to be a public service. I thought that was a very honorable thing to do. I went to UNC Chapel Hill, majored in international studies and political science, and then I went to Campbell Law School, and I always wanted to prosecute. I thought I could clean up the streets, and so when a job opening came in the 7th District, which is Nash, Edgecombe, and Wilson counties, I moved to Wilson, and I actually prosecuted for almost 29 years before I became a district court judge, and I've been elected this is my second, my second term.
Sure.
And I felt like what I'm seeing in the judiciary is an expansion of judicial philosophy.
Sure.
The Court of Appeals is a court of correction. The Court of Appeals, they're just to be sure that those of us at the trial court level are following the law and not inserting their personal opinions or any political. And I felt like, it's just dangerous what we've been seeing happening in the last few years. Nobody used to pay attention to the judicial races or Board of Education races, and we now know just how important both those races are. And so I think that with my 34 years of experience and the fact that I have tried thousands and thousands and thousands of cases, did you know that there are only 2 judges currently on the Court of Appeals that have prosecutorial experience?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Out of 15, there are only 2. And yet, but for COVID, 80% of the cases that the Court of Appeals hears are criminal cases.
Sure.
So you want your law and order judges, people that are familiar with what's going on in the courtroom in criminal law to be hearing those cases to be sure that the law is being followed correctly.
You know, a lot of people probably don't know, and you touched a little bit on it before, but what does the Court of Appeals do?
Well, like I said, the Court of Appeals is a court of correction. Now, your district court, which is what I am a district court judge at this time, I handle all types of cases, everything from setting bonds and felonies to abuse, neglect, dependency, terminating parental rights, who gets custody of the children, did the tree branch fall on your property or on your neighbor's property. And at the district court level, we actually make the tough decisions. We're the ones that make the decisions. At the next level, our superior court, your juries are making the decisions. And so if someone feels that there was an error in the law, either at the district court level or at the superior court level, it gets appealed to our appellate courts, which are the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court. The Court of Appeals hears the majority of the cases, and that's why there's 15 judges, and they sit in panels of 3 to hear cases. But they're not deciding guilt or innocence or anything like that. They're just making sure that the law is being followed, and that's what is so important. You need judges that believe that the law is based on the Constitution.
Sure.
And follow the Constitution.
Sure.
Without that, the general public, if they don't know that they can go into court and the decisions are going to be consistent, then there's no justice. We need to know, everybody needs to know that they're all going to be treated the same. And that's only if you're following the law.
This election is coming up relatively soon, and I know you touched on it again, but tell us again, what are some main reasons why you're running?
Well, actually, I was asked to run, and I am running in the Republican primary. I've often thought, as an attorney, I needed to go to Raleigh. You need not just academic knowledge, legal knowledge, but you need a judge at the Court of Appeals that knows what's going on at our level.
Sure.
Knows what's going on in the community.
Sure.
My opponent has been there since 2006. The laws have changed a great deal since then. I've been in the courtroom every day. You need not only knowledge, you need experience. It needs to be current. You need common sense, and you need somebody that cares. And I care so much about our system of justice, and I'm so concerned about what I'm seeing happening, and I want to be sure that I do everything I can to instill confidence in the general public about our judicial system.
You mentioned a little bit earlier about how long you've been practicing law, but expand on that. How long have you been practicing law?
Okay. Well, I was in private practice briefly before I began prosecuting. And I did that for almost 29 years. During that period of time, I was a senior assistant district attorney. I was a liaison between the U.S. Attorney's Office, which is your federal cases, and our state court. I have, during that time, tried everything from serious felonies to traffic cases. I was one of the first 2 women in North Carolina to successfully try a capital murder case. So I've got a lot of experience in all areas of the law. As a district court judge, like I said, we do some of everything in my district. We hold court in 4 different places within the 3 counties. And we do not specialize in like family court or a particular court. We do it all. I might be doing criminal one day and deciding who gets custody of the children the next day. It's just whatever's there. Sure.
Tell us a little bit about, to get to know you better, about who are some of your political heroes, or people, if people don't know you, who you looked up to, or who you consider would be influences.
Well, going way back, Cincinnatus, the Roman statesman.
Okay.
And George Washington.
Okay.
The 2 of them.
Okay.
They were military leaders, but they also had a great belief in the need for public service.
Sure.
And both of them went in when the country or the state was in crisis, and did what they needed to do. And then, rather than taking advantage of the position financially or politically, they went back to doing just the regular citizen's job.
Sure.
And I think that's very important, that we all have an obligation to fulfill. And so I like to pattern myself after them.
Another important thing I think is, judges also are a part of our community. Tell me any sort of personal interest you may have of, living and working and being a part of your community.
Well, I never sit still. I think anyone that knows me knows that. I have been involved in all types of civic, I call them extracurricular activities, not just work-related extracurricular activities, but also community. I'm an elder in the Presbyterian Church. I've been involved in all kinds of volunteer work, raising money for different things. I work with human trafficking. I've worked in the schools with the DARE program. I mean, it just goes on and on and on.
Something I just realized when I introduced you, and I don't know if people watching may not know, what is a certified juvenile law judge? What is that?
Well, it's a judge who has actually had specific training in that area and has worked a certain amount of hours, and then the state certifies you. You see, as a senior district attorney, obviously I had been there so long. Several years ago, or many years ago, I began to focus on the juvenile law because our children are our future. And I think that's so important. And in doing so, I've been recognized at the state and national level for my work in the judicial system, specifically in juvenile law. I was one of 14 chosen from across the United States to serve in Washington, D.C. And I'm also currently at the state level involved in the Juvenile Justice Advisory Commission. I was appointed to that, and that is actually a commission that was established by the legislature. And we advise the legislature on the law as it relates to juveniles. And also juvenile justice planning, which is part of the Governor's Crime Commission. I was appointed to that, and both of those I'm serving my second terms. And so I've got a lot of current knowledge of what's going on in not just one area of the law, but multiple areas of the law. Our juvenile age was raised a year or so ago for criminal prosecutions. We call it delinquents. We were the last state to do that, to raise our age to 18. Used to, when I first started handling juvenile court, if you were between the ages of 6 and 16, you could be essentially prosecuted.
Sure.
And the interesting thing about juvenile law is those cases go directly from district court to the Court of Appeals. Just like your termination of parental rights cases. They go to the Court of Appeals. So a lot of what I've been doing is areas of the law that the court handles. And I believe that I would bring a great deal of current experience.
Sure. One thing for folks who may not know, I mean, you have a lot of connections with Eastern North Carolina. And do you have any, I know of one, but any sort of current senators or anyone who's from the East who's supporting your campaign?
Well, yes, I do, and also some sheriffs. Obviously, I'm well known in the law enforcement community.
Sure.
I've always been available. I'm available as a judge. I was available as a prosecutor. Everyone knows they can call me whenever, and I'm going to do my best to answer their questions. Sheriff Chip Hughes.
Okay.
Senator Perry.
Okay.
Actually, Senator Perry is who gave me a tagline. Everyone running for political office apparently needs to have a tagline.
Yeah.
And I didn't have one. Couldn't think of what to do with freshwater. And he actually came up with this tagline that North Carolinians and North Carolina are thirsty for judges that follow the law.
Sure.
North Carolina needs freshwater.
I like that.
So, and I'm sure I'll be the only freshwater on the ballot.
Sure.
So it shouldn't be too hard to find me.
What is there a website or anything that you have where people can learn more information? I know we'll probably have one for folks at home, later. But what's a website that you have?
My website is www.BethFreshwaterSmith .com, and there is a great deal more information on my webpage about my experiences, and the fact that I've practiced for 34 years.
Sure.
And I've lived the law. And so I would appreciate people taking the opportunity to look at that. Of course, I'm also on Facebook, Judge Beth Freshwater Smith, Twitter, LinkedIn.
I think Instagram.
Maybe it's Instagram, not
Instagram,
Twitter.
all social media today. If there's a social media, she's on there.
Thank goodness I have a daughter and a volunteer a college volunteer that know how to handle all that. Which I failed to say that I am a wife and mother.
Sure.
Not only am I a public servant, but I have a daughter who is in her third year of law school.
Sure.
And my son is a junior at NC State.
Go Pack.
Yeah.
One question that pops in my head is, what makes your candidacy stand out? There's a lot of people running, and probably people at home would like to know, what makes you different?
Besides the fact that I have all the experience that I have, I have conservative values, and I've proven that I have integrity as well as a commitment to justice. And that is what is so needed. It is so important to have judges that are not going to interject their personal feelings. We have three branches of government for a reason. The legislature is to make our laws, the judiciary is to be sure the laws are being followed. Our forefathers were brilliant. I mean, they knew we'd need checks and balances. And, well, an example of how I've proven that that's exactly what I do, I met an individual at an event recently who said, "Oh, yes, I know you. You sent me to jail." And I sort of backed up, and he said, "But," he said, "I support you." He said, "You listened to me, you explained what the law is, and you said you were going to follow it.
Sure.
Regardless of whether I agree with it or not." And that's what we need, lawyers that are going to stand up and judges for the law.
You mentioned it earlier, I think would be interesting for our audience. Tell me about your values, especially any sort of conservative values that maybe play an impact on who you are as an individual.
Well, I am very, very patriotic. I was reared on patriotism and the American work ethic. I'm a very hard worker. And Christian conservative values, as I stated earlier, I'm involved in my church and have been always growing up as a child. And so limited government, you know, I mean, that was the idea, freedoms for individuals. So my conservative certainly is physically and traditional values and law and order.
Sure. A lot of people may be interested in too. Do you have any fellow colleagues or judges that have come out to support you?
Yes, I do. Actually, I was asked to run by leaders in the Republican Party in this primary. Justice Phil Berger, Court of Appeals Judges Jefferson Griffin, also Jeff Carpenter. I also have support in the Legislature General Assembly, folks that believe that I'm needed, and I'm glad that they feel that way about me, and I know that my Court of Appeals judges, that I'm looking forward to working with them, and they're looking forward to working with me. We need conservative judges that believe in following the law, and will do that, and I will do that.
Well, this has been a delight. You have been watching Meet the Candidates. My name is Ken Roble, your host. Again, as you've heard from Beth, North Carolina is thirsting for fresh water. Please check out her website and have a great day.